talk this afternoon about aging in place, and we are going to talk specifically today about property taxes, homestead exemption, senior homestead exemption, rebates, and deferral and property tax deferrals. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we will get started. So we'll start out this afternoon with the Senior Property Tax Homestead Exemption. And many of you know this program, know that over the years, the Colorado Gerontological Society has taken a pretty active stance in trying to protect this property tax credit for older adults. The bill was passed, or the statute was passed in 2002 by the voters. The goal of this particular senior homestead exemption was to provide some property tax relief for older adults who were having trouble paying their property taxes. It was a statewide referendum that was passed with an overwhelming majority. The way the program works at this point in time is that 50% of the value, or you get a 50% credit on the first $200,000 of value on your home. So for example, let's say that your home is worth $400,000. And if you qualify for this exemption, you would basically, and let's just say for purposes of math, for each $100,000, you pay $1,000 worth of taxes. So on the first $200,000 of value, you would only pay $1,000 in taxes. And then you would pay another $1,000 for at $300,000 and another $1,000, or another $1,000 at $400,000. So your total tax bill would be $3,000 as opposed to $4,000. So that's how it saves you money. If you have like a mortgage and you apply for the credit, that information is also shared with your mortgage company, and it should be then automatically deducted from your tax statement that you receive. The second criteria then in terms of, or the criteria for eligibility, is that you have to own and live in the home for 10 continuous years as your primary residence. And if you are age 65 on January 1 of the year that you apply, then you are eligible to apply for this senior homestead exemption. So again, if you turn 65 in August of this year and you want to apply for this exemption, if you apply after January 1 of 2023, you would be eligible. This other way that you can get eligibility for this program is if you are a disabled veteran. The application process is relatively simple. There is something called a short form. And on this short form, primarily it asks you for your Social Security number of yourself and spouse, if you have one. You have to sign the affidavit that the information that you are providing is accurate. And although the statute says that you have to apply by July the 15th, it's a good idea if you apply earlier than that. So again, in the example, if you turn 65 now and you want to apply for 2023, my suggestion is you apply between January 1 and July 1, although you have until July 15th of 2023 to apply. In addition to that, you only have to apply one time for this benefit. So it's not the type of benefit where you have to apply every year or every 6 months. This one is a one-time only application. You file the application at the county assessor's office. And so whatever county you live in, you file with that county assessor's office. And once you get the slides here, the link on the blue tab of assessor's office will give you the address of where the assessor is located in your county. If there has been a death and the property is now being only owned in one person's name, the surviving spouse, then you do have to fill out a long form, and that is a little bit more complicated, but it is not that difficult, if you will, to do that. Now, I would like to make you aware that I think there's something like 25 different times in the last 20 years, plus or minus, that the Colorado State Legislature has looked at how to change this particular benefit or this property tax credit. And this year is no different than any other year. Earlier in the session, Senator Larry Liston from Colorado Springs carried a bill specifically to increase this property tax credit from $200,000 to $300,000. He also wanted to make this portable. And what that means is that you get the property tax credit under its current form. But if you move from your current home and you move to a new home, you do not get to take it with you under current law. So it's what's called not portable, meaning you would have to live in your new home for 10 years, and then you could take the credit again. What Senator Liston was attempting to do was to make this portable, meaning once you had qualified, if you moved to a new home, you could take it with you. And this particular bill then would have started January 1 of 2023. Unfortunately, that bill was killed by the state legislature. So Senator Liston has now teamed up with Senator Janal, and they are putting forth a Senate committee resolution specifically for the purpose of doing exactly the same thing, of increasing the credit from $200,000 to $300,000, making it portable, with it to start January 1 of 2023. And if this passes the state legislature, then it would go to a vote of the people. And the people then would approve the changes. We have some work to do, though, in this area, because it has been assigned to State Military and Veterans Affairs Committee. And in this committee, it is oftentimes the committee that is assigned when it's going to be very difficult to get the bill passed. So it's supposed to come up for hearing next week on April the 26th at 1:30. I would like to encourage all of you to contact members of the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee. If you are willing to do that, I would ask that you put your name in the chat. And what I will do then is we will capture those. We will send you an email. And then if you are in a position where you could contact those members of those committees and ask them if this would, and let them know how this would benefit you and why you believe that it is important. Now, the next thing that we want to talk about a little bit is the homestead exemption. This is a little bit different than the senior property tax homestead exemption. This one has a very different purpose. Primarily, what this particular homestead exemption does is it is a way to protect your home from bankruptcy and other kinds of creditors. So a bill just passed within the last couple of weeks and was signed by the governor to increase the amount of the exemption for an individual who is elderly, blind, a spouse, or an owner's dependent. So if I'm the owner of the house and I'm a spouse, my spouse, or I have a dependent, I can exempt the first $350,000 from any type of bankruptcy. So that means that if I had a house that was worth $200,000 and I filed for bankruptcy and left over after my other bills were paid, say I was filing because of $20,000 worth of medical bills, and my house sold for $300,000, then I would get a check for $280,000 because this part of my home would be exempt from the bank basically being able to take these funds. The second thing that this bill did, looking at how many different types of structures, if you will, that people currently live in, is it added or changed the definition of a house. So a dwelling now can include a house, could include manufactured homes, mobile homes, trailers, trailer coaches, a farm, a vehicle if you live in your vehicle, a vessel if you live like on a boat or a yacht, a camper, any kind of mounted equipment, if you lived in a railway car, if you lived in a shopping or cargo container, a shed, a yurt, or even a tiny home. So basically, if you live in any type of structure, pretty much that one would think of, even if it is abnormal, you can qualify for up to $350,000 of credit if you had to file for bankruptcy. And by increasing or expanding the type of home to some of things like mobile homes, then we protect a lot of people from losing their home if they have to file for bankruptcy. Now, there's a couple of catches, and one of them is how the exemption works. So if you are subject to some type of a bankruptcy, and then the proceeds basically are exempt for 3 years if the property is sold by the owner, the mortgage company, or if there is destruction and you get an insurance payout. So for example, people who lost their homes in the fire up in Superior, they would get this exemption. The other thing is that this is a portable exemption, so it does carry forward to the new property, which is one of the reasons why you have to keep the proceeds, if you will, separate. You don't have to do anything overtly to take advantage of this. What happens and the way you would claim it is that when you fill out the form for the bankruptcy, you would then fill out the section about the value of your home, and then a certain portion of it would be exempt. The next program is the Property Tax PTC 104 rebate. This has been a program that the Colorado Gerontological Society has also worked on very, very hard over the past 20 or 25 years. This program basically provides a refund or a rebate back to an older adult if your income is under a certain amount. So to be eligible for this, you have to be a Colorado resident. You have to pay rent or property taxes. You have to be age 65 or surviving spouse, 58 or over. And here is one of the major drawbacks of this program. The income is very low. So your annual income has to be less than $15,381 for a single person, or $21,381 for a couple. And unfortunately, a lot of people who could really benefit from this rebate are not eligible because the income that you can make in a year is so low. The society has worked both in a leadership role as well as in a partnership role over the years with many different organizations attempting to get these maximum income levels increased. And although they do increase by inflation at this point in time, the difference from year to year is relatively small. You do have to apply on the state's form before December 31st of 2023 to claim the rebate on your 2021 rent or property taxes. Now, one of the good things is that you can still apply for the 2020 rebate if you meet the age and income requirements until December 31 of 2022. A lot of people do not know about this rebate, and there is some confusion. So for many, many years, if you lived in a subsidized HUD building or in a otherwise church-supported building that did not pay taxes, you then were not eligible for this rebate. 4 or 5 years ago, we were able to get that changed. So anyone who simply meets these income requirements and these age requirements, regardless of where they live, is eligible. So one of the things we have worked on over the last couple of years is to increase, if you will, the awareness by providing lots of education to a lot of the low-income senior housing buildings that this particular rebate is now available to many more people. Even with the increased eligibility, though, again, I believe it's because people don't know, we are not seeing a significant number of people taking advantage of this program. For example, there are approximately 25,000 people in Colorado who receive the old age pension program. At this point in time, we do not have 25,000 people who take advantage of this rebate. The amount of the rebate depends on the amount of your income. However, everybody gets a minimum of $350, and it can be upwards of $1,000 in terms of the amount of the rebate, depending on the amount of rent that you pay. So to apply for this particular benefit, you have to complete the PTC 104 form. The information that you need to have is you need to have your total income for 2021. You need to know the amount of rent or property taxes that you paid. You need to know the total fuel or gas heat that you paid in 2021. It does not pay for electric or help with electric unless you heat your home with electric. You'll need your social security number, and you'll need your driver's license or Colorado ID number. Up until this coming year, July 1 of 2022, you will also have to prove that you are lawfully present in the state of Colorado. After July 1, the state passed a statute last legislative session indicating that you no longer had to prove lawful presence, meaning that someone who is here with a green card, or even someone who's here illegally, theoretically could qualify for this rebate. So you can apply for this in two ways. You can go online and you can apply at Revenue Online. Again, the link in the blue is active, so you can just click on the link, or you can get a paper copy and you can mail it to the Colorado Department of Revenue at Denver 80261-005. You can get copies of the form by calling our office if you would like, and we are happy to mail them to you. Last year, we sent out almost 1,000 copies to individuals requesting them, and we're happy to do that again. You can also download the form from the Department of Revenue's website, or you can call the Colorado Department of Revenue and ask that a copy be mailed to you. Now, one of the things that is also going on at the state legislature, which is kind of related to this particular program, is that Representative Chris Kennedy is carrying a bill that would give a $1,000 income tax credit to anyone who makes $25,000 or less as their adjusted gross income for 2022. And one of the things that we asked, which he did put in the bill as an amendment, is that anyone who applied for this property tax rent rebate would automatically be able then to apply for this income tax credit. Similarly, then, if you do have to file taxes, then that credit would also be included in the form when you file your state taxes. The big challenge, if that bill passes the legislature, will be, again, identifying all of those people who would be eligible for this $1,000 income tax credit, who for whatever reason do not file this PTC 104. They do not file taxes because they don't have a tax liability. And so getting the word out will be another major information and awareness campaign that many of us will want to engage in if the bill becomes law. In terms of the PTC 104, the way that the payment is handled is it basically depends on when you apply. So if you apply in the first quarter of the year, then you will receive 4 quarterly payments. If you apply in the second quarter, you will get 3 lump sum payments. If you apply in the third, then you will get 2, and if you apply in the fourth, you will get 1 lump sum payment. You can get this payment either as a direct deposit into your checking account, or you can request a paper check. Usually it takes 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes even longer, for these payments to actually be processed. The next thing that I want to talk briefly about is the Property Tax Deferral Program. This is a program that was put into place probably 25 years ago by the state legislature again. What we found over time is that many individuals who owned a home simply did not have enough money to pay the property taxes. And what we wanted to avoid is to have the property go into a tax sale. Now, a tax sale is a very long process in the sense that there is a period of time when you have to be given notice by the county that they are going to sell your house. Then there's a period of time in which you have to do what they call cure that tax or that tax lien, meaning that you can bring the account current and you can pay the taxes. If you are not able to cure it and it goes to a tax sale, pretty much as they used to say on the steps of the courthouse, then somebody buys it for the amount of the taxes. They pay the taxes for 3 consecutive years. And if you are not in a position as the homeowner to pay those taxes and bring it current, then whoever purchased your house for the amount of the taxes becomes the new owner and you lose your home. So one of the things that we have in our toolbox, if you will, is this property tax deferral program. Now, I know a lot of people are hesitant to use it, but my argument is that it is better to use this property tax deferral program than it is to have your house go to a tax sale. So to be eligible for the deferral, you have to be 65 or over. All of your taxes to date have to be paid. So if I want to exercise this property tax deferral for 2020, on my 2021 taxes, my 2016, 17, 18, 19, and 20 taxes all have to be paid on my home. I have to own and occupy the house as my primary residence. So that is where I live. The next thing that gets to be a little bit more tricky is that if you have a mortgage on this property, the mortgage holder has to agree that rather than their mortgage lien being in first place on the property, that the state's mortgage lien for the taxes is tax deferral is in first place. And then the mortgage company is in second place. Now, sometimes that's not a really big problem. Where it gets to be a problem is that if you have a mortgage that is not what we call a PITI payment. And a PITI payment is property tax, or is principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So if you have a mortgage payment and it is current and you are paying the mortgage, then you really don't need this property tax deferral because the mortgage company will have the funds to pay the taxes. However, if your mortgage is in arrears, for some reason you haven't been able to make the payments, then it is very possible that they also will not have enough money and the mortgage company will not be able to pay the taxes. So in a situation like that, it would be in your best interest to see if the mortgage company would allow you to pay the taxes privately and if they would go in second place on the title to your house. That's kind of complicated and it requires some extra steps, but again, it's a way to try to save your house. If you don't have a mortgage, then you don't have to worry about that. So how do you apply for this particular program? So you do have to file an application and you do have to file it annually. You file it with the county treasurer. So the Senior Homestead Exemption, remember, was with the county assessor. This one gets filed with the county treasurer. And you have to file between January 1 and April 1 of every year that you want the deferral. Most counties have their own form, so you will need to contact the county treasurer and get the appropriate form for that county. The county treasurer then basically reviews your application or your request, and they issue then a certificate of deferral to you as the property owner. If there's a mortgage, they're going to send one to the mortgage lender as well. Now, this property tax deferral is a loan. It means that the state is going to charge you interest. And as I said earlier, they're going to put a lien on your property. Now, the interest is usually 2% over prime. So if prime is 4%, then you're paying 6% interest. And then if your property taxes are $3,000, then they're going to put a lien on your property for $3,000, and you would pay then 6% interest. If prime is 4, prime is 5, you pay 7%. Now, again, in some ways that sounds like a lot of money, but 6% interest on a $3,000 mortgage or a $3,000 lien is $18. It's not a lot of money. And what I always tell people when I'm counseling them about using this as a way to keep your home is it's okay if the state puts a $3,000 lien on your house. And even if you had to do this for 10 years before you moved and sold it, you still probably wouldn't have a $50,000 lien. And if you have a $200,000 or $250,000 home, then this lien basically still is only $50,000 that would get paid to the state, and then you would get the balance of that money paid to you. One of the things then, the way that the county gets paid, and this is kind of on the back end, is that once the county approves your application and gives you the certificate, then the state of Colorado pays your property taxes to the county, so the county can then use those dollars to pay for schools or other obligations of the county, which is why the lien is held by the state of Colorado rather than by the county treasurer. So that is how that particular program works. So that kind of concludes the overview, if you will, about these particular programs. So I'm going to take a couple of minutes and I'm just going to do a quick overview of some of the CGS programs. And then I see that there are some questions in the Q&A as well as the chat, and I will address those. So many of you probably know that the Colorado Gerontological Society provides grants for vision, hearing, and dental services. We did get refunded, so we will have new money for anybody who's been on the wait list for those programs starting July 1. Most of our funding for all 3 of those programs has been expended for the current grant year. We still have a little bit of flexibility, but not much. In addition to that, the dental services will be expanding starting July 1. So we have been able to cover the western slope south of I-70 and west of I-25. And starting July 1, we'll be able to cover everything west of I-25, including Larimer County and all of the Metro Denver area. There is some effort at this stage of the game to get some additional ARPA dollars for dental services. And if that is the case, then we will probably apply to expand those services statewide. The vision and hearing services are only available in the Metro Denver area. The Telephone Buddy program matches volunteers with older adults who would like to have somebody call and check in on them once or twice a month. Currently, we have about 36 vacancies for that program in the city and county of Denver, and we can take anybody from any other county who is interested in having a telephone buddy in the state. We did get refunded to continue our advanced care planning, counseling, and referral. We do have a toolkit on our website. We can do individual counseling. We can do educational programs if anybody would like to have us come out and do a presentation or do a Zoom meeting to a group. We're totally open to that. There are also 9 or 10 videos on our website on our YouTube channel with various kinds of overviews, tutorials, and information. We do a vast amount of counseling and referral, just general stuff on aging kinds of issues. Our housing and home care locator is an interactive database on our website, so you can find resources. All of the licensed home care, adult daycare, hospice, assisted living, and nursing homes are listed, as well as independent living and low-income housing. And our senior resource guidebook, which many of you have probably had copies of over the years, is going to the printer soon and will be available in libraries. We'll be distributing around 10,000 copies. We have a health insurance literacy toolkit, and you can get copies of that either in English or in Spanish. Please let us know. You can also download it on our website. And every year we do a large holiday basket project in the Metro Denver area and usually deliver around 350 baskets. In the areas of public policy and advocacy, we have 3 housing groups going on right now. One is looking at issues associated with multi-generational housing and what are the problems in terms of unrelated individuals living in the same household, zoning requirements, how does that impact benefits, and a number of those kinds of issues. We also have a housing advocacy coalition, and they're specifically following the federal ARPA money and the work that the state legislature is doing in housing. The Denver Housing Coalition is specifically looking at how do we impact and improve and make sure that we have adequate housing policies and plans within the city and county of Denver to meet the needs of older adults. Our Senior Advocacy Corps basically works specifically to try to work with legislators as well as with regulators to make sure that any programs and policies that are currently being debated have the best interests of older adults in mind while those are being created. And we often do work in patient advocacy and are looking to do some seminars in that area as well later in 2022. In terms of our educational and information program, we do this Aging in Place series. We have a couple of programs coming soon on Medicaid and benefits. We're looking to do the Salute to Seniors, and I'm sorry I forgot to correct this. It will, instead of being virtual on July the 9th, it will be virtual on August the 12th and 13th. And then we do Medicare Monday programming in the fall during open enrollment. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to look in the chat and see what kinds of questions people have added. So the question was, is there a link to the form? If your question is there a link to the short form for the Senior Homestead Exemption? There is not, but I would be happy to send you a copy. Okay, Carol is offering to help, so I will give you a call. And Zach Smith says he's willing to help with contact some of the buildings. This is super. Okay, somebody wants a copy of the forms. Okay, we got that. Somebody put in here that you can get the forms for the PTC 104 at the public library. That's a great resource as well. And somebody said that they were willing to send a letter to the state legislators. So that is super. And somebody wants a copy of the presentation. And yes, we will send the presentation as well as a link to the lecture. Somebody wants to be a telephone buddy, super. And somebody found the short form online. Oh, that's great. But I can't locate the homestead exemption, not the senior one. Yeah, that is in state statute. So that is only helpful if you are filing for bankruptcy. If you're not filing for bankruptcy, you don't need to do anything for the regular homestead exemption. Somebody wants to know the number for the Colorado Department of Revenue. I don't know what that is off the top of my head, but I can see if I can get it to you, or if somebody's listening and can put that in the chat by just doing a Google, that would be super. So if somebody wants a copy, yes, we will send that. Please repeat the date of the hearing on the property taxes. Okay, the hearing is April the 26th on the senior homestead exemption. And it will be, the hearing starts at 1:30. So it's best if you tune in at that time if you want to listen online. If you want to talk to legislators Sunday or Monday. Monday is, like Sunday night, early Monday morning are really good times to call and or send emails. Somebody else suggested that we Google it. Yeah, that seems to be always a good way to get information. Now somebody put something in the chat as well, or I mean in the Q&A. And there the question is the property tax credit based on income or a sliding scale. The property tax credit is based on income. So it's not a sliding scale. Next question, any CGS services available in Weld County? And the answer is you can take advantage of the Telephone Buddy program. We do have the guidebooks will be delivered in Weld County. And then those are sort of at this moment are on the ground stuff. We do some professional counseling and services with some of the local groups up there, but those are the two primary ones in Weld County. Obviously, all of the programs that we discussed today are available in every county in the state. So regardless of where you live. And the next question is, if someone received the property tax exemption, can this person also apply for the PTC rebate? And the answer is yes, if you qualify for, if you meet the income requirements for the PTC 104, you can apply for both. The question is, do you have the Senior Resource Guidebook online, more up to date than 2019 and 2020? And the answer is, give me about a week or 10 days. About 50 or 60% of it is updated at the moment. And one of my chores for the weekend is to finish updating it. And then we will be able to put it up online. And then we will also have new hard copies available within about a week or 10 days. And then you'll have to give us another week or 10 days to get those distributed. Somebody also was able to look up the number for the state Colorado Department of Revenue. And the number they've put in here is 303-238-7278. And then they put the caveat in that you will have to hold for a long time. And that is definitely true. And somebody just says, thank you for all of your support, which is always nice to hear. Somebody now has a question in the chat. If you have a house in a revocable trust and both husband and wife are 65, can we get the 65 and over property tax decrease? And I think the answer to that is yes, because you still have to pay the taxes, because a revocable trust usually means that the house is in, or the house is for your benefit. And if the house is for your benefit, then, and you are paying the taxes out of the trust as opposed to out of your checking account, you should be eligible, I think. If there's some question about it, I could look that up, but I'm pretty sure you can qualify. Okay, somebody says, it is true. I have my home in a trust and I received the exemption. Thank you for confirming that. Are there any other questions? It says, can the property tax exemption apply even if there is an attached beneficiary deed? The answer is yes, it can apply if there is an attached beneficiary deed, because the attached beneficiary deed is only good for in terms of the property upon death. So yes, it will work. Kathy O'Grady says she will contact legislators. Thank you, Kathy. If someone receives the property tax exemption, can the person apply for the PTC rebate? And we answered that. The answer is yes, if you meet the income requirements for the PTC rebate. And then next question is, what if only one of a couple is 65 and the other is, and the home is owned jointly? That is not a problem. Only one person has to be 65 to be eligible. And somebody else says that they would be willing to, I will what? Oh, pester legislators. Okay. Now you're talking like I do. Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, well, thank you all for joining us today. I look forward to being back with you in May as well. And we will pick up on this Aging in Place series. For those of you, if you have not been able to join us for some of the previous sessions, they are all on the playlist on our YouTube channel, and you can get there by just Googling YouTube Colorado Gerontological Society, and it will take you there, and then you can watch through the playlist. Thank you all for joining us today, and I look forward to seeing everyone soon.